Burial is a 2022 war thriller written and directed by Ben Parker. The film is a recounted series of events following a group of Soviet soldiers tasked with delivering Adolf Hitler's remains to Moscow. Shouldn't be too hard, as he is dead. Of course, the Hitler we should be talking about is Senor Hitler. But that's a story for another day. Our story takes us to right at the collapse of the Soviet Union and the end of the Cold War. Anna Marshall, played by Harriet Walter, is watching the television before laying her little dog out. But something out there spooks the dog, and bringing it back inside, Anna heads upstairs. However, she isn't alone. I figured the film had a small budget, but come on! Psst. After somehow dragging the man upstairs, she makes ready to call the cops, but the intruder, Carl, played by David Parker, calls Anna by her true name. Seems Carl knows that Brana Vasilyevna was a Soviet soldier in World War II. After tracking her down, he believes she knows the true location of an alive Hitler. It couldn't be that Senor Hitler fella. She's willing to tell her story, but first, some drugs.
What the fuck was that? What the fuck is that?
It works out for Stephen King. Going back in time to 1945, we follow a much younger Brana, now played by actress Charlotte Vega. Her and company are setting out with a lone coffin that crew must bury come night. The Shudder description said werewolves, not vampires, so I'm a little confused. Anyways, our merry group sets up for the night and we're introduced to Tor, played by Barry Ward. Why the Nordic nickname?
In Stalingrad. Killed some Panzer SS with a hammer.
You may be picking up, but this film suffers from constant dropping of accents. Here she has one.
Can I ask you, Mikhail Ivanovich?
No, she doesn't.
It's hidden. Someone kills us in our sleep. They still might not find it.
The next day, they're back on the road.
We should find something to camp around here.
We have plenty of time to get to the city. Better to get to the
Taking cover, they return pot shots while another member flanks. Not really following the 4 Fs, but hey, Private Murphy's Law and all. Or would this be Comrade Ivan? Captain Vadim Ilyasov orders that they halt and bury their dead. Baird disagrees, but he overrules her. Anyways, they bury the dead as well as the coffin, and Vadim decides to split the group up. Brana, Tor, and company will maintain watch, while Vadim and friends hit up the town.
Where you been? I thought you had the back killing a pig. What's that called? Oh, Christ. Want some of that? Days old.
While there, they get into a drunken revelry, which quickly turns very dark for the village girl, played by Esther Kuntu. Brana, now fed up, decides to go after Vadim and bring him back, but something is watching from the woods. Something wolf-like. In the village, Brana finds that Vadim prefers the rape to the pillage. Well, you managed to save her, now just keep him out of melee range, and you should be...
Hey!
Who do you think you are, talking to me like that?
Luckily, Lucas, played by Tom Felton, is there to save the day. This tense standoff is interrupted by the cracks of rifle fire in the distance. Rushing back to the bar, they find the place smoking and down a few members.
I burn lichen and mushroom. Makes you hallucinate.
Yeah, this film uses the werewolf angle as more of a plot point than a twist. In fact, I skipped a portion earlier where the ambusher's rifle was found to have the werewolf symbol. These aren't wolfmen hybrids, but instead guerrilla fighters, or well, commandos, utilizing hallucinogenics to make hitting their targets more effective. Speaking of targets, how's it going in the 100-acre woods? Yes, while the horror is destroyed of any mystery, the imagery is still rather awesome to witness. Tor is disarmed by the not-so-bloody Valentine, while another soldier is killed. The kid sees the only werewolf in this film, but is saved in the nick of time. Digging back up the coffin, they find the truck is gone, and they must move on foot. The most unrealistic part of this film is that they managed to dig that thing back up quickly enough to avoid the full German force. Another unrealistic thing is that Tor is left frolicking through the forest only to happen upon a village girl, who for some reason has departed the village and taken shelter in the dark forest. Well, Tor shows considerable restraint after being stabbed and has a heart-to-heart with the girl.
I don't know what you are talking about. You have no idea. You don't know what they're like.
I know what you are like. Bolsheviks, Germans, both the same.
Oh yeah, Tor saw the concentration camps, which doesn't defeat her point. Not to mention the Japs sit at an estimated civvy count of, 30 million. Add in the fact this film goes with the "old Germans are bad" angle, and ignores the fact that there's a difference between the standard conscript or enlisted soldier and an SS officer who conducted the camps. Look, this isn't a bridge too far. It's a low-budget film that so far may as well be fan fiction, and carries the quality of the average fan fiction. Werewolves find Tor and open fire, only hitting the village girl. It's just not a good day for her. They capture Tor while the others find refuge at a small house. Here it's revealed that they are indeed escorting Adolf Hitler's body to Moscow to be viewed by Stalin. Why, you may be asking? Well...
The dental records,
Stalin needs to see it. He needs...
What?
In Russia, we like to look our enemy in the eye.
Yeah, so all this trouble is just so Stalin can teabag a corpse. I mean, okay. So wait, was the burial every night meant to hide it? Preserve it? Why the fuck didn't you just wrap the corpse and entomb it in a more secure box? Yeah, the kraut might ferment and become sauerkraut, but I feel like this could have been done so much easier. Also, you could have just brought the friendly corpse earlier with you in the back of the truck. Honestly, at this point, the film is halfway over, I'm starting not to care that much. Actually, wait a minute, you literally could have flown in a plane. The war is over. Yeah, there's still resistance elements, but how many of those resistance elements have anti-air? Tor is briefly tortured, but the German scouts find the house, and they go to engage. After a momentary standoff, shots start to fly. Everyone is shooting everywhere, cracks of rifle, thumps of MP40s, and sounds of bolts being worked. And yet, somehow the scene manages to be boring, with low energy. Eventually, Tor escapes to the house only for Vadim to run to the werewolves. He reveals that the corpse is in a shack.
That's it. They shot him because he went for the shed. It's in there.
Or they simply shot him because he was in the open. Not many targets in the open around these parts. Anyways, Vadim gets the best effect and the Germans escape with the body, mainly because Brana can't hit the broadside of a barn, or work the bolt all that well. Luckily, Tor overheard some words, and the kid translates it as church, with a target they get moving. Time is of the essence, and then they stop to cry over the village girl's corpse. What? What the fuck is the layout of this area? Everyone's just circling back in on themselves. While they cry, it seems the Germans' plans are to make a snuff film, proving, or at least tricking, everyone into thinking Hitler is alive. The prequel to They Saved Hitler's Brain isn't what I was expecting. Luckily, our heroes are there to keep crying over that girl we know nothing about, apart from that she is somehow the only person in the village.
Men like that don't die. They fester in the ground, infecting everything.
Look, you can cry over and over about that, but your team killed millions. Their team killed millions. The Japs killed millions. At this point, can we stop keeping count and just do what, for some reason, needs to be done? And thus the attack on the church is underway, this time reversing the tricks of the werewolves against them. No, I don't know where they found the hallucinogenics needed, or how they even knew what hallucinogenics were used. You know, really, you just shouldn't think about it. The battle goes on, and ultimately it comes down to Tor being gunned down and Brana with the kid pinned. The kid sacrifices himself to save Brana, while Tor drags himself and the corpse under the floorboards. The whole place burns down, and we return to the present past. With the story completed, Brana reveals that Carl is wearing Lucas's necklace, and that Lucas is dead, having been murdered a bit ago. She shows him something in a box, and then kills him. And no, I don't know what was in that box because we're showing Tor's body, and it is cremated levels of burned. Burial was first shown off at Fright Fest in the United Kingdom, August 29th, 2022, with its latest release being in South Korea, March 2nd, 2023. Between the US and Canada, the film would have an opening weekend of $4,149. Filming for the movie wouldn't be done in Poland, but instead Estonia. I can only imagine because it was slightly cheaper. Harriet Walter replaced Diana Rigg, who died before filming began. There's a few things to point regarding history here. First off, while this film takes place after the fall of Berlin, the final battle in the European theater would be on May 5th. American and German forces would fight off an SS group at a castle. It's honestly a very amazing story, with a underrated Sabaton song.
And it's the end of the life of the final journey. Enemies leaving the past. And it's American troops and the German army joining together at last.
How much truth is there to the werewolves? It's a vague plan that no one is sure even happened to a great degree. It was thought over starting in 1944. While no one is credited as the creator, it is believed that the 1910 novel Der Werewolf by Herman Lons is what led to the inspiration. There's honestly a ton of stuff to go over. Mostly the operations seemed to induce a psychological effect over a physical one. I mean, they were more meant for commando actions than guerrilla actions. They were expected to be in full uniform after all, which is a choice. For the most part, though, it would seem the action was ineffective for whatever amount it was actually used. What did happen to Hitler's body? Well, after his wife took cyanide, Hitler supposedly blew his brains out. His valet, Heinz Ling, walked into their room, finding both dead on the sofa. The scent of burned almonds was in the air, a sign of hydrogen cyanide poisoning. The duo's death would be between 3 p.m. and 4 p.m. on April 30th, 1945. Both bodies would be wrapped up and moved upstairs to the Reich Chancellery Garden, where they were doused in petrol and burned. This action was to the wishes of Hitler in both written and verbal forms. Now, this wasn't a crematorium. There the fire is concentrated and incinerates the body. Due to this handicap, those involved did not manage to burn parts like the teeth. It should also be noted that this was performed while being bombed by the Soviets. The next day, on May 1st, the death would be announced over German radio. Honestly, I feel like the script for this movie should have been burned, or at the very least, the people tasked with marketing the film given a cyanide tablet, because all the marketing plays up the werewolf angle. They even put this film on Shudder. Now, I don't know how much blame goes where, but outside of one moment that is deflated of all tension since, let me remind you, they declare it's just a bad high, the straight-up bullshit pulled by the marketing only hurts an already pretty bad film. I can tell you the name of one character, and that's simply because he had a funny reason for his name. Everyone else is bland, forgettable, and frankly not very good. Accents slip constantly, and no one is worth a damn to latch onto. The villain? I don't even know if they said his name. It's just a nobody. You want this film to be about the actual German werewolves? Fine, then make it about them. Instead, we get this random jobber, and the most we get from the werewolves is one wears a slightly identifiable headpiece. There's better horror films, there's better thriller films, and there's better war films. Skip this film and go watch something else. If you want to see soldiers taking on werewolves, then Dog Soldiers is still the undisputed king. This is the second time I've seen a Russian World War II period piece film get labeled as a horror movie while not being horror. I mean, yeah, it only happened twice, but still, it's rather strange that it happened.
Why did you use the hammer?
It's all I could find at the time.